Welcome to our discussion on the urgent challenges in environmental conservation. Our planet is facing critical environmental threats, with ecosystems declining, species vanishing, and essential resources like clean air and water under strain. Conservation is essential, not just for nature, but for humanity's future. One of the most pressing issues is pollution. Air pollution, from industrial emissions and vehicle exhaust, is responsible for millions of deaths annually. Water pollution, including plastic waste and agricultural chemicals, devastates marine life and ecosystems, particularly in countries like the Philippines, where plastic waste in oceans is a growing crisis. Despite efforts, conservation faces two major obstacles: funding shortages and political resistance. Globally, a lack of financial resources undermines vital conservation programs. Locally, inconsistent funding in countries like the Philippines hinders projects to address pollution and protect biodiversity. At the same time, political resistance, both globally and locally, often prioritizes economic growth over environmental health, slowing the adoption of crucial policies. In this video, we'll dive into these challenges, explore real-world examples from around the globe and the Philippines, and discuss how they affect conservation efforts today. Understanding these obstacles is crucial for fostering dialogue and motivating action on all levels. Let's explore these pressing challenges. First, let's talk about funding. Conservation initiatives often face significant financial challenges that undermine their effectiveness and reach. According to the Global Biodiversity Outlook 5 report, released in 2023, biodiversity funding falls short by an astonishing $700 billion annually. This shortfall means that many critical conservation projects lack the financial backing needed to implement and sustain effective practices, leading to detrimental outcomes for ecosystems worldwide. For instance, the Amazon Fund, which is crucial for supporting rainforest conservation in Brazil, has faced severe budget cuts due to shifts in political leadership and priorities. This reduction in funding has had dire consequences. Deforestation rates in the Amazon have surged, resulting in substantial biodiversity loss. The Amazon rainforest is often referred to as the lungs of the earth, playing a vital role in carbon sequestration and climate regulation. The repercussions of such funding gaps extend beyond environmental degradation. They threaten the livelihoods of indigenous communities who depend on these ecosystems for their cultural, spiritual, and economic well-being. These communities have lived in harmony with the rainforest for generations, and increased deforestation not only disrupts their way of life, but also endangers their survival. Turning our attention to the Philippines, we find a similar narrative regarding funding challenges. The Philippine Biodiversity Conservation Program, which aims to protect the country's rich biodiversity, home to countless endemic species, has faced significant hurdles. Despite its status as one of the most biologically diverse regions in the world, funding from both government and private sectors has been inconsistent and inadequate. In 2023, the Department of Environment and Natural Resources reported that only 40% of the necessary funding for critical conservation projects was actually secured. This funding gap drastically hampers efforts to protect vital habitats, such as coral reefs and mangrove forests, which are essential for maintaining ecological balance and providing resources for local communities. Many grassroots organizations, which play a pivotal role in conservation, struggle to secure the funds they need to carry out their missions. These organizations often focus on community-led initiatives that can have a direct impact on local biodiversity. Unfortunately, a lack of financial resources can lead to the abandonment of crucial projects. For example, in 2024, a local community project aimed at restoring mangroves in Batangas was abruptly halted due to insufficient funding. Mangroves are critical for coastal protection, serving as natural barriers against storm surges and erosion, while also providing vital habitats for marine life. The cessation of such projects illustrates the direct impact of funding shortages on biodiversity and climate resilience. Without a concerted effort to address these financial challenges, the conservation movement risks losing ground in its fight to protect our planet's natural resources. Governments, private sectors, and international organizations must recognize the urgent need for adequate funding to ensure the sustainability of conservation initiatives. Only with stable and increased financial support can we hope to reverse the current trends of biodiversity loss and environmental degradation. Next, let's examine political resistance, a significant barrier to effective environmental conservation efforts worldwide. Initiatives like the Paris Agreement, designed to combat climate change through international cooperation, face substantial pushback from various governments. For instance, in early 2024, several countries, including Brazil and the United States, announced their withdrawal from the agreement, citing concerns about economic burdens associated with environmental regulations. This reluctance to uphold international commitments reflects a broader trend of prioritizing short-term economic gains over long-term sustainability and environmental health. By withdrawing from such agreements, these nations jeopardize not only their own ecosystems, but also global efforts to mitigate climate change, undermining years of collaborative progress. In the Philippines, political resistance manifests in a different but equally troubling way, particularly in the handling of mining and logging activities. Despite overwhelming scientific evidence detailing the detrimental effects of these practices on the environment, policies favoring mining were pushed through Congress in 2023. This push reflects a troubling disconnect between scientific recommendations and political actions, raising serious concerns among environmentalists, local communities, and indigenous groups who bear the brunt of these decisions. Our communities suffer as a result of this resistance. Forests, for example, are not merely resources to be exploited. They are vital ecosystems that provide clean air and water, support biodiversity, and play an essential role in regulating the climate. Increased mining operations threaten not only the environment, but also the livelihoods of local residents who depend on these natural resources for survival. Many rural communities rely on forests for their sustenance, whether through agriculture, foraging, or ecotourism. As mining encroaches on these critical areas, the destruction of these habitats leads to the loss of biodiversity and compromises the ecological services that forests provide, such as air purification and water filtration. Moreover, the political prioritization of short-term economic development, often driven by external corporate interests, overlooks the importance of sustainable practices that could benefit both the environment and local economies in the long run. For instance, investing in sustainable agriculture, renewable energy, and eco-friendly tourism can provide alternative livelihoods while preserving the integrity of natural resources. The resistance to adopting environmentally friendly policies not only threatens ecosystems, but also undermines the rights and voices of marginalized communities who are often at the forefront of conservation efforts. To combat political resistance effectively, it's crucial to foster greater awareness of the interconnectedness of environmental health and human well-being, advocating for policies that prioritize long-term sustainability over immediate economic benefits. By doing so, we can create a future where both people and nature thrive. Air pollution is a pressing environmental concern in the Philippines, particularly in urban areas where high levels of vehicle emissions and industrial activities contribute to the problem. According to the World Health Organization's Health and Environment Scorecard, the country's annual mean for fine particulate matter is 24 micrograms per cubic meter, milligrams per metricore, which far exceeds the recommended maximum level of 5 micrograms per milligram. This poor air quality not only results in respiratory problems and other health issues, but also has negative effects on crops and natural ecosystems. In addition, marine pollution poses a worrisome threat to the Philippines, as coastal areas and marine habitats face the damaging effects of plastic pollution, oil spills, and untreated sewage discharge. Shockingly, the country generates a staggering 2.7 million tons of plastic waste annually, driven by unsustainable plastic consumption and an inefficient recycling system. This rampant plastic waste harms marine biodiversity and endangers the livelihoods of fishing communities. To To combat air pollution, we must advocate for cleaner public transportation options, such as electric vehicles and improved mass transit systems. Citizens can also promote local air quality monitoring initiatives to hold authorities accountable and push for stricter regulations on emissions. Similarly, marine pollution poses a significant threat to the Philippines. As a call to action, we can organize community cleanup drives and advocate for better waste management practices. Additionally, supporting local businesses that prioritize sustainability can help reduce plastic consumption. Education campaigns can raise awareness about the importance of reducing, reusing, and recycling. By engaging our communities and collaborating across sectors, we can create effective solutions to combat air and marine pollution. Together, we can ensure a healthier environment for ourselves and future generations.